Alright guys, so it looks like we have another Elizabeth Warren, Rachel Dolezal type situation, right? Where we have somebody that is pretending to be a so-called person of color, right? Pretending to be oppressed, right? Pretending to be oppressed. And this time we have Canada's leading Indigenous health expert, right? Miss Carrie Bourassa, aka Morningstar Bear from the Bear Clan. And that's not me saying that, that's her saying that, that's what she claims, okay? Who has been exposed, right, after some of her colleagues got suspicious about her claims of being Native American when they felt like she was doing a little too much, right? She was doing a little bit too much flexing. So they said, this is cap, right? And basically saying that she might be lying, right? She might be lying about her ancestry. So they decided to look into it and found out that she, in fact, is not Native American, right? Which has cost her her job and possibly her university professorship, right? Now, keep in mind, again, this is the leading health expert in Canada on Indigenous people, right? So I wonder why she got the job in the first place. I wonder if it has something to do with the false claims that she was making. But before we get into this, I want you guys to watch a clip of her speaking about her experience as a so-called Native American and the racism that she's experienced because of who she is. Take a look.
Unfortunately, many people that access healthcare feel stigmatized. They might experience racism or prejudice, and whether it's perceived or it's real, when you're experiencing it, it's very real.
Have you experienced it?
I have experienced it.
My great-grandmother was Tlingit. She married an immigrant. They moved from the far northern BC into Saskatchewan, and they had a family.
Greetings. My name's Morningstar Bear. Whew. I'm just going to say it. I'm emotional, so. I'm Bear Clan. I'm Anishinaabe Métis from Treaty 4 territory, and I want to acknowledge the territory that I'm in, Treaty 6 territory, home to the Cree peoples and homeland of the Métis Nation. I also want to acknowledge my ancestors who are clearly here with me.
Boy, that clip is pure comedy, okay? It's nothing but comedy. Nothing but comedy. So let's actually read here and learn a little bit more about Morningstar Bear and her background, okay? And who she really is, where she's actually from. And it should be no surprises here. A Canadian medical researcher who rose to become the nation's top voice on Indigenous health has been ousted from her government job and her university professorship after suspicious colleagues invested her increasingly fanciful claims of Native American heritage and learned she was a fraud. Carrie Bourassa, a public health expert who served as a scientific director of the Canadian Institutes of Health Research Institute of Indigenous Peoples Health, was suspended on November 1st, 5 days after the state-owned Canadian Broadcasting Corporation published a lengthy expose on her background. Wait. So her colleagues and the government worked in tandem to expose her, right? To snitch on her, okay? I got some questions. She definitely pissed the wrong people off, okay? Because this ain't nothing random, right? They must have always been suspicious. But for them to actually try to expose her now, she must have rubbed somebody the wrong way, okay? I think there's more to this story. Far from being a member of the Métis Nation, as she had long claimed, a laborious trace of Bourassa's family tree revealed that her supposedly indigenous ancestors were in fact immigrant farmers who hailed from Russia, Poland, and Czechoslovakia. So she's basically a whole white woman, right? Russia, Poland, and Czechoslovakia aren't exactly places that I would think about as places where there are a lot of more darker skinned people, right? I think that people from those places, generally speaking here, tend to have very, very, very light skin, right? They tend to be white, right? They're just white, okay? For the most part. But this lady right here definitely seems to be white, right? She's probably whiter than Elizabeth Warren at this point. And what really gets me, guys, what I don't understand is you see the picture of this woman, right? You look at her. Look at her skin. Her skin looks brown, right? And the place that she's from, you would think that she would be, you know, very, very, very white, okay? You don't think her skin would be that dark. I don't know. There could be some darker skinned people in Russia, Poland, Czechoslovakia. Let me not make the mistake of assuming all those people are just, you know, white, right? Regular white or whatever, okay? But I'm just saying, I find it interesting how all these characters, their skin tones seem to get darker, right? When they've been discovered to be white, right? Their new identity, all of a sudden they get darker. Except Elizabeth Warren, who was just obviously white the whole time. Now, for this woman right here, I couldn't find any pictures of her when she was living her life as a white woman. But I did find some pictures of her sister, right? And her sister looks white, right? White, just like you would think somebody from Russia / Poland / Czechoslovakia would be, right? A white blonde-haired woman. So this woman right here has underwent a significant transformation to get rid of her white privilege and to live the rest of her life as an oppressed minority woman. I'm just saying, I find it to be fascinating, right? That's all I'm saying. And what I also find probably even more fascinating about these transracial people is that in some cases, a lot of cases, they tend to be woke, right? Like Miss Jessica Krug, who was a black studies professor who got discovered to be white, and Rachel Dolezal, who was an ex-leader in NAACP. These same people are out here preaching the victimhood ideology, right? And that there's this thing called white privilege. So my question is that why is it that you don't want your white privilege, right? Why don't you want it? If it exists, why would you not want it? And if it's so hard for so-called minorities and non-white people, then why the hell do you want to be one, right? I don't understand. If white privilege was a thing and I was born white, why would I want to give it up, right? Why would I want to be oppressed? It's almost like these people are either lying, right? Or they're fetishizing being victim / oppressed, right? I think that's what it is. So I think there's a little bit of both going on here. I think a lot of these people do romanticize about being oppressed, right? And then I also think that they realize that, hey, there's a whole lot of perks that comes along with being a so-called minority, right? Like becoming Canada's leading health expert on Indigenous people. A position that somebody that's Indigenous probably is gonna be the prime candidate to have. And I'm just saying, there's a whole lot of positions out there like that in corporate America that basically target so-called minorities, right? Like every diversity and inclusion officer in corporate America is basically a black woman, right? That is a position made for black women. So let's read a little bit more here. Quote, "It makes you feel a bit sick," said Janet Smiley, a Metis professor at the University of Toronto who worked with Bourassa on a book about Indigenous parenting. Quote, "To have an imposter who is speaking on behalf of Metis and Indigenous people to the country about literally what it means to be Metis, that's very disturbing and upsetting and harmful." Colleagues began to doubt Bourassa's story as she began to add claims of her Anishinaabe and Tlingit heritage to her tale and took to dressing in stereotypically Indigenous fashion. It started to unravel in 2019 when she appeared in full tribal regalia, draped in a electric blue shawl with a feather in her partially braided hair to give a TEDx talk at the University of Saskatchewan in Saskatoon. Quote, "My name is Morningstar Bear," she said tearfully as the crowd cheered. "I'm Bear Clan. I'm Anishinaabe Metis from Treaty 4 territory," she proclaimed as she described an impoverished childhood beset by violence. But colleagues at the university where Bourassa held a professorship smelled a rat. Quote, "When I saw that TEDx, to be quite honest, I was repulsed by how hard she was working to pass herself off as Indigenous," said Winola Willer, an associate professor of Indigenous studies at the college. Willer, a documented member of Manitoba's Fisher River Cree Nation, started digging into Bourassa's genealogical records and took her findings to the media. But when pressed to provide evidence of Native American heritage, Bourassa suddenly changed her story, saying that she had been adopted into the Metis community by an unnamed Metis friend of her deceased grandfather, Clifford LaRoque. Boy, she had that story in her back pocket, right? Just in case she got exposed, okay? She had an adoption story to say, hey, you know what? I'm not really Native American, okay, by blood. I was adopted, right? But I can't believe that one of her colleagues, though, snitched on her, right? You took all this time to look this woman up because you thought she was capping that hard, right? Kind of crazy. Even though Clifford passed, those bonds are even deeper than death because the family has taken care of me as if I was their blood family, she insisted in a statement. In turn, I serve the Metis community to the best of my ability. The case has drawn comparisons to that of Rachel Dolezal, the white woman who claimed to be black as president of a local branch of the NAACP, and then Senator Elizabeth Warren, who claimed Native American ancestry on the strength of family lore and her high cheekbones. Oh my God. Okay. So here's the thing, man. Honestly, if we are accepting transgenderism, right? You can be whatever gender you feel like, right? You identify as. Why can't we accept transracialism, right? I kind of feel bad for the woman. Okay. If she actually did grow up in that environment, right? And she's felt that all her life she's Native American. Why can't she be Native American? We accept that same logic when it comes to gender, right? A girl says, hey, I feel like I'm a boy. I've been a boy all my life. You know, I'm a boy. And the woke revolutionaries accept that as fact. And they will punish you if you don't act as if it's a fact, okay? Why can't we sell transracialism? It's the same thing. And unlike gender, right, I think that transracialism is actually a little bit more legit, okay? Because race is fluid, okay? Each and every last one of us are a mix of a bunch of different races for the most part, right? I know I ain't even got to take a test. I know I got a little bit of white in me, right? Probably a little bit of Native American, probably a little bit of something, you know? Okay? That's basically 99% of us. So again, that is fluid. However, when it comes to gender, I am a man, born a man, right? And I will always be a man, no matter what, right? There's no fluidity there. So again, I don't understand why is it that she's getting fired for this. She can be who she wants to be, right? Who she feels like being. And that is something that the left has been preaching to us. And all of a sudden, that logic doesn't apply anymore when it comes to race. And I don't know why, right? I really don't. The left should be quiet, right? They shouldn't have anything to say when white people start identifying as so-called minorities on job applications and college applications. Because again, they told us that this is a thing, right? You can be who you want to be. Regardless, I don't know why all these privileged white folks, this is sarcasm, why they want to be non-white since all the non-whites are supposed to be oppressed. It must be because the whole white privilege slash victimhood narrative for minorities is BS, right? That must be what it is. But let me know what you guys think. And make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.